Welcome back to another vBrownBag Build Day video. We're continuing with our HPE SimpliVity 380 discussions, and again joined by Richard Greenwalt to talk about the solution.
Yes. Hey, Alastair. Great to be back. So with the HPE SimpliVity 380 Gen 10, there's a lot of flexibility in terms of scalability. Customers can scale up or scale out for their individual requirements or whatever deployment they're using. So in terms of scale up, they have a single socket CPU option.
And that's new, isn't it?
Yes,
that's kind of scaled down, isn't it?
Yes, it is. You're right. But that can save on costs. Licensing is great for remote and branch offices. But they can add a second CPU, and also all the different core options within the system. So you can add memory there as well. But it's not just that. Sure, a customer can deploy a single node, and they would have local backups available, and that's great for remote and branch office. But they can scale up by adding additional nodes within a cluster. So you have this concept of a cluster where not only is data backed up within RAID.
So are we talking about a vSphere cluster here, or is there another construct going on?
The SimpliVity cluster, yes, the storage cluster maps with the SimpliVity cluster.
So when I'm talking about a vSphere cluster that I'm used to, this is just going to be a storage cluster on these nodes that matches exactly my vSphere cluster.
Within it, yes.
Nicely.
So definitely a lot of flexibility there. And so you have this concept of RAID plus RAIN backup. It's not just the data being backed up across the hard drives within the node, but your nodes are mirrored in say, a 2-node cluster. So you have backup there as well. If a particular node goes down for any reason, your VMs and your data are still supported.
So we have that idea of having the RAID inside the node that we're very used to from physical server implementations, but also that we have a collection of the nodes in the cluster, much like a normal vSphere HA cluster.
Exactly.
We have the storage cluster doing the same thing. Yeah.
Yep. So very similar. But also you have this concept of a federation, or a container of multiple clusters within there. So this is usually across sites. And so it's not just backing up data at a local center, but you can back up data to a different location. So a lot of times there's a 2+1 configuration within a federation. And so even if a site goes down, all your data is still backed up, and that provides a lot of uptime for our customers.
And that's the disaster recovery kind of functionality where you have a remote data center with a full copy of your data.
Exactly. And since it's all deduped and compressed and it's policy-based, customers don't have to worry, did I back up that particular VM or that particular set of data?
And did the backup job complete?
Exactly. It's a lot smaller, so you can move it across locations, even if there's, say, a slow link or anything like that.
So when you're thinking about a single node scaling, we often have this discussion as we're designing a vSphere environment of how much compute, how much memory do I put? Do I have a small number of really large ESX servers, or do I have a large number of really small ones? Are there constraints, are there limits that we've got in this? Well, it's Proliant Gen 10, so presumably that the constraints are really quite large.
There's a lot of options in terms of what CPUs and memory can be in there, quite a lot. But if per se a customer needed to add additional compute capability, with the SimpliVity platform, they can actually add in other servers that do not have the SimpliVity hardware in there. And they don't get the storage benefits, but you get the additional CPU. So if a customer has a lot of existing servers, even if they're not SimpliVity, not HPE, they can use the CPU benefits in their cluster and gain that performance advantage.
So that's if I've got adequate storage capacity and I want to not buy more storage capacity, just buy more compute capacity. Is there any sort of reverse option of that where, we talk about buying hyperconverged is often like buying an inkjet cartridge where you have to buy all of the colors even though you've only run out of black. What about if I run out of other resources?
You run out of storage, essentially.
Yeah, I mean that's the other.
So you can. So if you run out of storage, you can always just add another 2U node into a cluster, into a federation, and you get the additional storage there as well. We have different storage sizes available for our customer. So if you just have a remote and branch office and you need just a little bit of storage, and you get the benefit of that offsite data availability, that's great. But also if you're in a core data center and you need a lot of storage, there's some large sizes available for our customers.
Right. So we've got scale up a single node, scale out a group of nodes in a cluster, scale usually across geographic locations for that group of clusters in the federation. Is there situations where I might scale that federation as a group of clusters inside a single data center?
You could. If you wanted to segregate or isolate individual workloads, whether it's a database for licensing reasons or VDI graphics, you can have multiple clusters in the same rack. There's not rules preventing that, but you could separate them for licensing points of view or something like that.
Right, so whatever kind of segregation I want of my workloads, I could have multiple clusters in the same data center. They don't have to be in different data centers.
Clusters, exactly.
So we talked quite a bit about scale up, but with this, particularly the new configuration where there's the really small amounts of storage and a single CPU, there must be some scale down. I mean, you can't go to no nodes, but a lot of hyperconverged, you've got a 3-node minimum.
Exactly.
What's the story here?
So you can go down to a single node minimum in a cluster here. You have all the RAID across the hard drives, you have the SimpliVity OmniStack accelerator card, you get all those benefits. And so yes, you can have a single node cluster with the HPE solution, HPE SimpliVity solution.
So if I've got a single node, I've only got local storage, I've got the availability as this node must be up.
Exactly.
Presumably I want to ship back up somewhere else, so I don't imagine that a single node at a single site is the end of the story.
Right, so you could add it to a federation and you can back up the data from that single node to a cluster somewhere else and be remote backup. So if the site went down, you'd still have all your data, but you don't have to buy, say, any more than a single node for a location.
And that'd be really useful if I had 300 retail stores or 10,000 retail stores.
Yes.
Because that's definitely a place where per unit price is really important.
Exactly, and this there's a single socket configuration available, and that helps with that.
Well, keep watching for some more of the HPE SimpliVity 380 build day videos. We've got a bunch of them out, and you'll see some more with Richard as well as with some of our other experts.